Good morning, dear friends. Welcome to the business breakfast held as part of AIJ, the journey into AI. This conference is the seventh in its history. Yesterday we had the first day devoted to science, and we are very happy that we had more than 80 speakers from very different countries: Russia, India, France, South America. A very international agenda. More than 90 million views and more than 180 countries that viewed this conference. It's very interesting. It's very nice that AI is an international and uniting topic. Today, we'll devote this session on implementing AI into various industries. But a bit more about science. 150 universities watched yesterday's live feeds, and yesterday we announced the Science Award that's going to be given in 2023, 1 million rubles for the best publication in this area. So we welcome all you to participate. Today we are talking about AI in industries and sections of the economy. How to implement, what hinders the implementation, and what we must do to speed it up and make it more efficient. Today we are at Sber's building at Kutuzovsky Prospect, and we chose this venue because it is here that the teams that write the code for AI are located, and they make Sber's products better, and thanks to them, our products can help the customers to satisfy their needs. Today we have representatives of science, government, rectors of universities, and businessmen. And it is with great pleasure that I would like to present to you the Deputy Prime Minister of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Chernyshenko, with whom we will moderate this discussion. We will now roll the video. How business must unite for mass implementation of AI in these industries. New time means new challenges. The challenge of building optimal logistics chains. We have IT talent shortage. There are difficulties in regional transformation and digitalization. Today, all industries of the economy demand new tech solutions. AI applications have already driven economic growth in some of the industries, and now we need to solve the new challenge of scaling these practices on a national level. AIJ means a journey into the world of artificial intelligence. It's time for solutions. Dmitry, floor is yours. Good morning, dear friends, esteemed colleagues. I think you've heard more than once that AI means a lot of effect in speeding up various technology, mainly in digital transformation and digitalization. We will be listening to those and inspired by those, and there's already a big scale and effect from this transformation. Various experts say, and there are models on which we focus, especially those used by Sber in its estimations, they give an effect from 6 to 7 times. And it's a very serious growth ratio for which we must fight. When estimating the efficiency of AI in the metrics that are currently used by us in the government, there are 5 indicators: the growth of speed, improving quality, ensuring the new level of personalization, and growth of economic efficiency and objectiveness that these technologies ensure. By various estimations, and we try to calculate those because the numbers are different, but the most conservative estimations in this country last year, the effect from AI implementation was 300 billion rubles, out of which 200 billion are those of Sber. The effect was actually much more, as I think, much bigger, but we haven't learned to quantitatively calculate it, and that it is also one of the questions, and what I'd like to address to you, to make new steps there. In big and medium companies, we made a calculation. The percentage of AI implementation reaches 20%. In this country, the most advanced industry is the motor industry and transport. The declaration of the company that it is going to implement AI, in some areas this declaration is made by 50% of the companies. So everyone is going there and everyone understands that it needs to be done. It seems that this understanding have happened. If we can extrapolate to the overall number of companies in this country and the volume of business that will be upgraded with that, we expect the introduction of 1 trillion rubles into the economy thanks to AI. I think it will break even all of our investment, and this business breakfast that the hospital Sber has made on its in its location, including all these investments combined, will be returned. The government is working on the President's orders, and I'd like to thank the President's administration. My colleague Maxim Oreshkin opened the conference yesterday. They structure our work in all areas. That includes launching scientific programs, teaching staff, creating educational modules, and supporting prospective startups. We are very seriously changing the legislation, the legal basis, and it is done to allow such experiments and to allow them to prove their efficiency. In order to overcome one of the main barriers, a very important step is done. There is a project of the federal law introduced into the State Duma that will allow access to a great amount of access, including governmental data, for business, so that businesses can educate their models based on representative data. This will ensure that there's a good effect from AI, because if it's not using data, if it has not enough of them, it is not as useful. So a very big work done on this topic, and conferences like this one are tailored to unite our efforts, and we can understand whether the current efforts are enough. Even those done by the government, I can say that they are not enough. Even in a year, I've seen changes made. I think it was about seven centers of competence that were supported by the government. So these were AI centers, and this allows to get scientific research as well as sizable results. Alexander already mentioned science. It is impossible to ensure breakthrough technologies without having our science as the basis. We have a very quick implementation of AI in our science in all areas, including technological businesses that serve as a very qualified client. This allows us to have a great opportunity for Russia to take its well-earned place on the international stage. It doesn't mean we're all glad and happy about the results, and that's why we're talking about the assessment, independent assessment of Russians' performance, and it's not yet in the international lists. like the international assessment of top 10 countries that use the digital transformation in governance. But in AI, by international research, we are in the top 30. In order to step up a little bit, we, by talking to leaders of AI and various associations, we have been used to feeling as equal to the international leaders. And this is actually true. The leaders are showing an international level of achievement. But that said, we need to bring our whole landscape, our whole economy to the current level. And for that, we have all that is required. So I won't be holding you up, and I won't be telling you about how much the government has done. I hope that everyone feels that, feels our care, and will do everything to create the conditions to allow full-fledged use of AI and the perks that it gives you, and that will help increase the efficiency in areas many, many times. Okay, if you say tenfold, it will be tenfold. Now let us measure the level of optimism of the audience today. Let us pull up the voting, so let us try to answer this question. What kind of financial effect do you expect from AI implementation in all processes in your organizations in 3 years? You can scan the QR code by pointing your cameras to it, and there are options from 5 to 10, from 1 to 5, from 10 to 20, or less than 1%. I'm saying this for all of those of you watching us, and we'll now see how the audience answers this question, because there are maybe various feelings. Now let us look at the results. From 10 to 20%. 256, the majority, from 10 to 20%. What can I say? I think it's a very good indicator of optimism, and we'll see how it changes throughout this business breakfast. Dmitry has said that there was a survey made by the Governmental Analytical Center. Let us look at its results, whether it's so good that our audience is thinking. So here with the green, there are those who do not plan to use AI, like healthcare, transport, agriculture, and construction. More than half of the companies in these areas do not even plan to use AI. A third are planning to use it sometime, and those that use it, the purple part, is just a very small fraction. It's in OCR mainly. Text recognition is the simplest technology of AI. And I'm very happy that this audience is very optimistic, and those who are watching us, but the general picture is not as colorful. Let us talk about this. What hinders the AI implementation in the industries? What makes it hard for them to plan it and to implement it afterwards? I'd like to ask the head of Interagrotech, Natalia Filipova, to speak on this. She understands this. What makes it difficult for the main participants to use AI? Hello, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for inviting me to such an interesting conference. It's a very topical matter, and I'd like to discuss a couple of aspects that will help or may help the development of AI in this country. My name is Natalia Filipova, the representative of industrialists that produce agricultural equipment. And we very well understand how AI can help us because we are working in 4 main areas of the economy, starting from the component-based and microelectronics, digital solutions based on AI, producers of agricultural equipment. So all in all, that ensures the agricultural security of this country. First aspect is the lack of infrastructure. In this case, in agriculture, what I mean when I say agriculture. So there are solutions, there's software and hardware that's being implemented and tested, but there's no single platform, no single stage that would allow us to get this data, to aggregate this data, one place and one time, so that we can use it then very useful. And it's very important for agriculture. Today, I'm remembering that in June there were industrial competence centers launched. I can only tell you about the agricultural part, but generally the numbers are very big, about 800 plus projects, and part of them, about 30% of them, involved AI. But for some reason, that's a question to business, there are now less projects, and I'd like to understand what kind of solutions we may have. Are there any problems here? I will still say that the fact that the active dialogue started, the fact that there are various support programs, that the developers are starting to unite and share experience and bring it to other areas, to other industries, it's a very positive way to develop AI. But right now, when we create the general infrastructure, we may have an even bigger effect in the long term. The second aspect that I would like to underline is that we see that there's a very, very big shortage in people, so they're being laid off. And for AI, I think people must stay in order to ensure a breakthrough in technological sovereignty. They must stay, and they must stay in those companies too. They shall unite, and they need dialogue and support. Only that will lead us to that technological sovereignty that we have been talking about, and on which agenda we have been working for half a year. Long-term planning, it's actually not there. And the cause of it is that right now the companies are, of course, want to be flexible, they want to be adaptive with the new environment and conditions. But the AI products, they are very complex, they require long-term planning. And I'd like to hear the point of view of business, how the companies see this strategy. I'd like to hear maybe about support that will allow Russia to develop AI better and quicker. I think that is all, and I very much hope for a live dialogue here. We hope that it will be here too. You mentioned strategic plans. My question is this: every company, every area has its own business cycle. So oil extraction and gas, they have a very long cycle. So when we talk about using AI in these areas, there's usually the matter of quality forecasting. And I'm not a professional, but I think they need to understand where to extract the oil from and how to do it. And Gazpromneft, there's a question to Gazpromneft. My colleague Vedyakhin, director for digital transformation of Gazpromneft. Oleg, I understand that you want to answer, but I haven't yet asked the question. But Natalia has left us? No, we will not ask questions to her. Dmitry, okay, I get you. Natalia, I think Dmitry wants to ask a question.
Right, I was just wondering about what Natalia said. I was listening attentively, and I thought maybe I could do something to help. As I understood, you are head of an association that does technology in the agricultural industry. That's right. So what are the priority areas where you can benefit most from AI? You've been talking a while about long-term planning, that people are leaving. Who is leaving? Your AI counterparties have all left? They have terminated your contracts? No. So why are you saying this? In which areas in agriculture would you benefit the most from AI? Is it elimination of weeds? Is it harvest time or sowing time or irrigation, what have you? Weather forecast, just let me know. Maybe you need access to satellite images, something concrete. Maybe a round table? But we are at a round table already. It couldn't be any more round. I mean, a round table with people from the industry, the agricultural industry. No, wait, there's a lot there to unpack, and there are a lot of alarmists in the world saying that there will be world hunger. Can you imagine what will happen if we say that Russia is going to boost its agriculture by 30%? That would be a great scoop. I just don't like hearing all these accusations of the government. The government is not helping. Well, that is a promising start. Some intrigue going on. But no, really, Natalia, that could be a good thing, I think. Some concrete ideas, concrete suggestions, what you would like to ask from Dmitry, from the government, from the State Duma. What do you need to increase the effectiveness of AI in your industry? It's just that people are not really willing to deploy AI, because we are here because we want to deploy AI, but there are a lot of people, as we saw across the country, who don't want it at all. We have the statistics. We have big agricultural holding companies that are implementing actively 15% of the market. All the other companies are mid-sized companies. There's a farm enterprise with a few hectares, and they're not ready to spend money now to wait for an effect that the AI could give at some point in the future. So the scaling is an issue. Okay, good. Is it good, Dmitry? Well, it's good for Alexander, that's good for me. Well, regarding scaling, what do you need exactly? Do you need some sandboxes, an area when you can experiment, when you can test, when you can test drive? We all want to scale up, right? We're all interested in it. Or what? You want to delegate to the smart people in the government, and we will think something up, and then you will use it. Maybe we could meet each other halfway. We also have Timur Libadov here, the CEO of Rusagro. Maybe you can answer that? What do you need to scale up? The microphone is on. The first step towards scaling. All in all, I think in order to scale up, what we need is two things. First, we are predicting yield twice. First time when we have our planning for planting, and then at a later stage, we need other aspects for planning, including logistics, transportation, and also if there is a conflict of interest, what you get rid of first, what to do with irrigation. So the accuracy in planning is as high as 90% in some cases, but we are lacking data in order to increase that accuracy and enrich our systems. So it would be great to have some storage, some database into which you could contribute your own data, from which you could extract the data of your counterparts. So you're ready to just provide your data just like that? I am, of course. You mean now? This exists in the agricultural industry, but there is a lot of red tape there. There are some regional administrations collecting data, but all those arrays of data, they exist for nothing, for the only purpose of administrations reporting that this and that has been done. But the data, collecting the data that are needed for developing AI is currently impossible. But if we could have a data lake where we would have cadastral data, data about the fields, the chemical analysis of soil, the yields, the weather, that would be a very valuable data lake, database that everyone could benefit from. Great proposal. Perhaps we could start with the model of data, what kind of data you need, what amount of data, and in which areas you experience the biggest shortage of data. We have the AI Competence Center, and maybe we could collaborate with them to understand where we need the data, what kind, and what are the barriers. What kind of barriers we need to remove to make sure the agricultural industry thrives. Great, we are happy to provide the ideas, the proposals, our thoughts about the format of data and how we can collect the data best. Agriculture in the country is done not just by agricultural enterprises, but, pass along the mic, fertilizer producers and suppliers. Yes, I just wanted to say that there is a big problem with consolidating the data in a single place, but what the government could help us with is a single standard, because right now it's a free-for-all, but if we had a single standard, we could be more efficient in using the data and contributing it. We have another representative of the Agricultural Center of the agricultural industry, or maybe you could. I thought that I had that I would have the chance to present at a later point during the session. You want me to talk now? Sure, why not? Perhaps some of you noticed that last week the world population exceeded 8 billion. This is a huge challenge for the entire planet. What should we expect? What should we be bracing for? The agricultural industry will be bearing the brunt of it to a large extent, I think. I think the global agricultural industry is currently experiencing the fourth agricultural revolution, which is impossible without artificial intelligence, without digitization. We produce fertilizers for 30% of the world population. That is absolutely crucial, because without the fertilizers, we would not be able to provide food for them. But this fourth agricultural revolution is more than just providing fertilizers. It's not just about kgs of fertilizing chemicals per hectare of soil. It is about systems of plant nutrition. Every field is unique, every region is unique, and every season is unique by the amount of water, sunlight, whatever. And add culture to that. So a lot of variables. in order to ensure rich, generous yields, and in order to avoid soil degradation, what we need to be talking about right now as fertilizer producers and agricultural companies is not just fertilization, but systems of nutrition. So the digital solutions that we are trying to harness and develop together with Sberbank these days are about this mass deployment, large-scale deployment of nutrition systems. Sounds awesome. So you are supplying fertilizers to different countries, different continents. I know you've recently had a batch that went to Africa, South America, North America, also within your geographical coverage. So in which regions do you think the situation is best? Can you compare Russia with Africa or South America? I would say that Brazil is a very advanced market, truly, perhaps the only country where agriculture is not subsidized at all, and across the country it accounts for the second biggest contributor to the GDP, but the soil is pretty meager, it's not that rich, so a lot of fertilization is needed. Then again, Africa is adopting an increasing amount of digital solutions, which I hope will help them narrow the gap, same as with the banking industry. As for Russia, I would say that in Russia the main problem is this gap between the needs of a farmer and what the developers, the programmers are doing. So how do you close that gap? How do you make sure you cover the needs of people that are actually working there in the field? And how do you combine that with the beautiful things that programmers and software developers are creating in the office space? So what do we do about it? Maybe we could engage some IT guys? Well, to become a qualified customer, you also need quite a lot of skills and knowledge. I know that you have a corporate accelerator. I know that you are investing in it. I have a question that's interesting, I think. What would motivate you to believe in the potential of AI? What has helped you do it? Have you had to overcome the resistance of your team? Because I know that Mr. Grab has had to deal with this for many years, the resistance of the top management of the company against AI, to make sure it becomes a part of the new corporate culture at Sber. So how ready are you to share your data with colleagues in the industry? Are these data sensitive? Is it a threat for you? Is it a risk? Is it a challenge? Well, as for resistance, I completely agree. This is a big challenge. It's just that I've grown this interest towards AI. And 3 or 4 years ago, same as you grow a plant, I embarked on this digital agro project where we were spending money on trying to understand what is digital in agro, instead of just sharing the money, right? Well, we were small back then. Small, you mean? No. I mean small in the digital sense, not small in agriculture. In agriculture, we're huge. So once we had this foundation, we realized that it's not just hype. This is something big. No. What I meant is, you said you were spending money, and did your shareholders say that you're just burning through the money? You could have spent it to something more useful? No. Fortunately, we've had complete understanding from shareholders. So maybe in terms of percentage of your revenue, how much were you investing? I would say 1 to 2%. Not that much, really. Apparently others were not doing even that, because once again, as Natalia was saying, I think enlightenment is absolutely crucial. Just broadening people's horizons. Obviously, among people who work in AI, everyone knows the use cases, the figures, the statistics. It's very easy to talk about this, but what about the people who don't know about this? They would be, well, to put it mildly, surprised, I think. It's just that I'm curious, what encouraged your shareholders to start doing this, venturing into AI? Was it in Brazil? I think I know the answer. Oh, right. We'll get back to that in a minute. The inspiration of all shareholders, today at 1 o'clock. A great topic, AI in agriculture, but this is something that is above ground. Then again, we have something that is below ground. Back to Gazprom Neft. Agriculture is ahead of the oil industry by a small margin, at least at this roundtable discussion. So, Nikolai, can I ask you this question? Well, you're the moderator. No, but we're in a democracy here, so just in case. Okay. As agreed with Dmitry, I have a question for you. In the agricultural industry, the figures can differ 1 or 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that 2 years? The victory sign, 2 years. So long-term cycle, long-term investment. Do you have any ROI there? First question. And the second question about data sets. Are you ready to share your data with others in your industry? Yes, Dmitry, we took down the answer. Ready to write that down in the minutes. The minutes of the breakfast, you say? Well, thank you for the question. I'd like to follow up on some of the topics that have already been raised, and I will also tell you about the cycle. The cycle is indeed long-term. It takes dozens of years from the moment of buying the deposit license to extraction. That could take 7 to 10 years. Geological prospecting is a huge part of this. So starting from geology, it is in geology precisely where artificial intelligence is especially useful. We have already started extracting the first digital oil, so to speak, the oil that was prospected for by AI. So reducing these 7 years by even just 1 year could result in a colossal effect. In the current portfolio of the company, that means we are speaking about dozens of billions of rubles. That could be the effect. And we also understand very clearly that this is just the beginning. So the potential is immense. It is 10 times as big, at least. So we realize that we have a long way to go. We have a huge horizon. And the survey shows that brilliantly. So reducing that cycle and compressing it gives direct effect in geological surveys, in interpretation of seismic data, geological data. What it took a geologist to do previously, it took geologists to do something for months and months if they had to do it manually. These days, the time has been reduced to just a few hours thanks to AI. Speaking of cross-industrial applications, this is very similar to, I think, looking for a cancerous tumor. So looking for oil could be similar to that. And we are also reusing our algorithms. So let me recap. You can take algorithms from healthcare, medical algorithms. You mean computer vision, right? Yes, MRI. Very, very similar. So similar to what people do in healthcare with MRI, we do pretty much the same with with the ground, with soil, interpreting seismic data. So this is computer vision as applied to subsoil resources.
It's more difficult to enlighten a person, but analyze, put a person through testing and see what's inside. But anyway, it can be done. Very similar to the algorithm of making a cancer diagnosis, one way or around. So there was a question of availability of staff and talent. We as a company that is leading in the education track in AI, that's what we're doing. And we have a competence matrix in data science based on which we have programs in universities. Actually, colleagues have mentioned the pure data scientists. We don't need pure data scientists. You don't need pure. Well, maybe in how they look, yes, but not in what's inside their brains. Maybe citizen data science is more of something that we need. Our approach in our programs of requalification, we have more than 2,000 teachers that work in the universities. They educate people who will be then able to solve these matters, solve these challenges in oil and gas. I think colleagues in other industries have similar stories. In chemistry, for example, you can't be just a data scientist without having a clue about chemical processes. Yeah, this may lead to a collaboration between the government, right? I think he's understanding what he's talking about. Actually, a representative of Gazprom Neft won the Best Solution in AI award in an international conference. I think if he had brought also a sample of the oil that they extract, the performance would have been even better. But what I would like to say now is that considering the rate of investment of Gazprom Neft into AI, on the background of the awful things that we have been told, like decreasing extraction, some green limitations, or limitations on the oil market. So if we talk about the 3-year cycle that we're used to, are you planning to de-invest, or are you going to increase investment, or will you be flat? We are improving investment, including investment in AI. You know, the question is, so you haven't yet budgeted. Of course we have. So tell it directly, we have. Also, the indicators in the digital transformation, we even put those figures there. You feel, that the Ministry of Digital Development has such a big role. I've been going along this way. I think you have almost covered and finished the task, but he hasn't answered the question. No, I mean, in the government, the positive outlook in terms of AI, but the whole world is listening, and actually there are more foreign connections to this conference. I mean, unique users than from Russia. So maybe Natalia was right about people leaving. The international interest, of course. I'm just dragging out this pause while the colleague is remembering. It's not about numbers, it's not about a specific number. Now, that was great. Now call Dukov and ask him. I can call him right now. No, that's not what I meant. I meant applicability. So we're working with constant processes that cannot be disrupted. I just wanted you to make some kind of commitment and demonstrate it to the other colleagues. You know, you demonstrated those results. They must understand that every year that must increase their investment into AI by 15%. Dmitry, look, yeah, but I think we must make it even higher, 2 times higher. You have heard this, right, guys? The leaders of the market are doubling their investment. So the matter here is about working and taking the risk. And all right. I won't take too much of your time, but I will say that in logistics, for example, in the Arctic, it's not our core business, but why have you decided to talk about that? I have done it because we're even investing in AI in even these areas, which will give us an effect even a step after, like forecasting the locations of the ice masses in the Arctic. This is just an example of the AI use. So we put it all apart and analyzed it all, and then made this ice forecasting that already now allows us to optimize our routes in the North Arctic route, the shipping route. So what about the legal basis? Maybe something is lacking. How can we help you? Dmitry, for example, said that we lack standards and we need to standardize. I just analyzed it right now. 7 new standards in AI have been used for data processing, but not for your areas. Not oil, not gas, not fertilizers yet, right? Yes, maybe afterwards. You're right, but in oil and gas and using the reserves, maybe not everyone knows what this means. Industrial centers of competence is what I meant. Is a new industry of the leading companies that chose a leading company, which bingo is Gazpromneft, that decided to replace import of software, replace it with Russian software, and then even put it to export. Seems like the foreign countries should be afraid. That was a joke, but we're looking at the general landscape in oil and gas. I'm talking about using various tools developed in the industries, including our industry. The general, the game rules, or let's say one language must be used. One language that we're all speaking, or a single data universe. It's about, making it possible to work together, to having a single data model under the hood. Everything that lies underneath the soil, everything that is extracted from there. So all the companies working in these areas may exchange the data, including with AI. So we're getting to a level landscape for all industries, which will be helpful. And all companies are mentioning that. As of now, we've gathered 270 plus solutions. 28 of them, 10+%, are AI inclusive. This shows potential. Not everyone, but 10%. We can reinvent the landscape of the industry by using modern technology. So what we're doing right now in the industrial center of competence. The data model is important, and we're making it based on this industrial standard. Oleg, what you're saying, we're recording this, and Dmitry, I think, is giving already some instructions to his staff to make up a quality protocol of this breakfast. Alisa Melnikova. From Sibur, floor is yours. After talking about extraction, I think we must talk about processing as well. Head of digital processes at Sibur. Right after Uralhim has blown into your microphone, you'll have a successful speech. Getting back from the earth, from the soil, getting higher. Sibur is not extracting anything. Sibur is taking whatever Gazprom has extracted and then processes it like gas, and then we get polymers, polyethylene, polypropylene, various products of organic synthesis. So, do we need AI? For us, AI is like a new horizon of increasing efficiency of our processing. When we started digitalization 5 years ago at Sibur, various international consultancies told us that thanks to digitalization, AI, we could get 10% plus in revenue. Then we were afraid, then we were reluctant, but then we realized how to do this, and we almost got that. So what you mean almost? I meant that we have a specific plan of projects until 2025. So if we take United Effect from these products, they give us these numbers. But you have long-term projects. No, we'll just have a lot of that. We're not doing them at one time, all of them. We have prioritization. I'm not talking about 1 year, I'm talking about a 3 to 5 years horizon, which is attainable. It was attainable for foreign companies at which we had looked before, so it is attainable for us. I think we'll be able to achieve that even before 2025. We're not making a product that will break even in longer than 3 years, so it must be shorter. Previously, 5-10 years ago, we thought that AI is the technology of the future, but now it's technology of right now, of today. There are companies that have working instruments that we can share, that we can implement. So, in this extent, all is good. Now, what is bad? The skills. I think that in order for the use from AI to be seen at state level, it must be used in the whole industry, not just 3 to 5 companies. And here we have a talent shortage, like of specialists in AI, and government is already working with universities and schools to create those. But it is not enough. But you said that it is enough, but in the industries it's not enough. Am I getting this right? Yes, because it is confirmed by our attempts to cooperate. I think the industry lacks that. There are 3 actually points that I'd like to announce. First is the digital talent shortage. Now we understand why we need those, because we're talking a lot about data exchange, data mining, etc. But data can only appear from digital processes. So if any processes are not digital, data will not be extracted. So it is important for the industries to digitalize faster. I'm not talking even about AI, I'm talking about digital. We won't even have the necessary data. Okay, so for Sibur specifically, last year you said that the digitalization effect amounted to 11 billion rubles. That's a very serious amount. Especially, I got that from open sources. What kind of effect of this can be attributed to AI? Optically, it looks like half of the effect. But there are other projects that I have mentioned, without which it wouldn't have happened. There's digitalization of the process, and then there's a cherry on the pie, like a miracle. So half, right? You hear that, you have heard that. Half of the effect was from AI. I think it's a very good case, so I'd like to point everyone's attention to that. Right, Alisa? Right. I'm looking at Krynov from Yandex, and when I say, Alisa, I'm remembering Yandex. I think everyone has this problem. The digital assistant turns on. They're not here. There are other digital assistants here. And actually, that was just the first point of what I'd like to say. Second is to continue what Dmitry mentioned, that the IT people, it's not a joke about them going into the fields, right, to understand the agriculture, because, you know, in our company, the IT people are going to the production facilities to see how, for example, polymerization is done. So chemicals and specialists in physics must educate the IT people. It's not just about creating the professions of the future. It's one thing. Second thing is keeping the competence of the past. Like, you mean eternal competences like physics and chemistry. And third, there's a third thing, right? Yes, third thing is about our joint work in the industrial centers of competence. It works like that. Companies that participate in these companies are, you know, they're very big. They already have some kind of success that they've invested in or are investing now. But our goal is this. We want the results that we create to be available for the whole industry. We don't want companies just that one company is creating and the other companies are buying from that. It's a good business, yes, but what is the industry to do? The companies that cannot invest as much. So we must think about the model of rolling out these solutions to a bigger scale, to a whole industry. This is our task. It's not just the expectation from the government. It's, you know, I'm addressing the colleagues that we're working together at the industrial centers of competence. So then the government will have expectations. If you're not expecting something from the state, the government will expect something from you. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Alisa. I wanted to say Athena, but it's Alisa. So we're back from the ground and up, and we're now looking at what is over the ground. And I mean construction. No. Development, not construction. Right, development. So I pass the floor to Antony Elistratov, CEO and member of the board of Samolyot Development Company. What can you say? Yes, not construction, but development, but you are always correcting people that these are different things. I'll give you context what Samolyot is so that you understand why it is important for us. The Samolyot Group is 500 offices in 65 regions of Russia. Developed projects in 10 regions, constructions 3.5 million square meters. Second biggest developer in Europe, public company with a lot of shareholders, and in next year, through us, we'll have 1 trillion rubles passing through us in transactions. This is transactions with new apartments and the apartments sold afterwards, and also transactions with renovation, decoration, fit out. So we are a bit broader than just construction. In the last 3 to 4 years, we've gone a long way. It was easy because we are out of the traditional construction area where there is low efficiency, and it hasn't grown for the last 50 years. For us, everything changed when we started to identify the area of our business, when we said that our business is not about building and selling a construction object, but the fact that we're selling the life scenarios or subscription to life. It can be done without getting data. That we want to be with the client, with the customer, for their whole lifetimes. So we need to get more data. We started getting sensors into our construction sites, drones, cameras, sensors, the same with our sales offices, audio badges, recorders. in the apartments, we started making smart home systems, video feeds, sensors of water leaks or electricity overloads. And so we're now getting a lot of data from all of these sources. What this led to was that in construction, for example, we have our own dynamic system of tracking the construction process, and this system identifies the slowdowns or downtime and helps us redistribute the work, analyzes the load on the equipment. For me, it's important, so if someone takes off the protection hat, the system automatically identifies the person and even finds the contractor automatically. And a lot of other things are happening.
The system that we are creating ourselves, it has already reduced by 38% the time we spent on construction. A few years ago, it took us a month for monolithic construction. We have reduced that by 35%. And that reduction is to a large extent thanks to the reduction in downtime by a factor of 5 at construction sites. So a big investment in that platform, we are getting returns on those investments. And we are getting the new opportunities to benefit from that system. We also see a lot of demand abroad, by the way. We are doing the same not just in development, but also in sales. Our sales manager has an audio badge, and each conversation is recorded. The conversation is then transcribed and rated. We also have chatbots, systems for routing to call centers, recommendations, prompts, predictive analytics. We do the same in procurement. We do not purchase anything ourselves. We purchase using the model of predictive analytics. And only with the materials this year, we have been able to save more than 1.5 billion rubles. Just the fixtures. Same goes for all the other things we're doing. That exact same approach, data collection. I don't think, Alexander, we are needed anymore. No, we need you. We really need you. Okay, maybe cut to the point. What do you need? Okay, we need two things. First, the competitive advantage for us is where we collaborate and compete with others, and that is embodied by the concept of a smart house. So systems that help us collect a lot of data about our users. We are the center of competencies for the smart house. Together with the Ministry of Digital Development, we have already made good progress in that, but we need a standard. We want to be able to finance smart house systems thanks to project finance, and we want that to be included in mortgage lending. That is a huge market, that is about import substitution, and that could be a driving factor for our entire industry. So, smart house. Second point, project finance. We are not competing with the industry because, as the result we saw on the screen showed, 70% of the industry are not planning to use AI. We are competing with banks, with the telecom, with the financial industries. So we are in an industry that is based on project finance. But we cannot include in project finance any IT developments or AI developments. We have to finance them from our own profit or from public debt. But when we go to the public debt market, what we are faced with is the same limits, the same banks that we have to deal with in the project finance market. And for them, this is less interesting. So the second thing is it would be great if we could have special purpose, long-term financing for IT in construction development and utilities, and that would be really helpful. So long-term debt, long-term financing, I think this is a question for us primarily. We could have a project with you, a collaboration with you. I think it is a question for us as well, for the government, speaking of a regulatory framework, if you want this smart house to become a reality and to include this in mortgage and to include this as a commitment at construction phase, that is a great idea. I think we should follow up on this. I think it would be also beneficial for the consumer, and it could really drive the industry forward. This is a win-win situation. But why the industry? You said 38% the effect for the monolithic phase of construction. Why is the degree of AI deployment in industry so low, just 3%? Why do you think that is? Two main reasons, I think. The first reason is that it requires a lot of investment. In our case, for example, in the case of Samolot, next year investment in AI and smart systems, more than 10 billion rubles. But that is not realistic for most companies, only for major players. Also, an understanding of what you are doing. If you just want to put up a structure of bricks and just commission it to someone, maybe you don't really need smart, complicated systems there. But once you transition to another category, to a more complex and sophisticated one, that's where you need AI. But it's for a good reason that you are developing your own platform solution and providing access to your platform, providing external services. I think that could be a solution to this. Are there any other similar platforms in your industry, or do you want to be the monopolist in that regard? There are a few large companies, as we know, that are already also developing their own systems, and abroad, as the market for these services is rather big, this is a promising thing. Why have we decided to take this up? We saw an American startup, and we saw that their product is way less convenient than ours, but they performed an IPO and claimed 15 billion. So when we see examples like this, when we saw that, we thought our own platform, our proprietary system, would be a great idea. I hope that this will be supported throughout the country and through the institution of industrial special envoys. We believe that this could be the next big thing. And as your financial partner, we would be happy to finance you and support you in that development. Thank you. So we started this topic of development and AI in development. Not construction, but development, mind you. Now let's talk about the people who live in the buildings that Anton is building. Alexander Metzi, Director of Digital Transformation, maybe you can talk a bit about that. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for inviting me to this business breakfast. So, speaking on behalf of the healthcare industry, I would like to say that the problems are very similar. So the problem with data is one thing, but first things first, what is the difference between healthcare and other industries? There is this big player, the government, and there are private players, private clinics, such as ourselves. While acknowledging the potential of AI, I'd like to mention that we are probably the first private healthcare company, healthcare provider, that has decided to really venture into that. The biggest challenge for development for AI solutions is the lack of data, as we've noted. But in healthcare, the situation is even worse. There are private clinics, smaller clinics, that experience a lot of problems with the storage of data. And then there is this big institution, the government, with huge amounts of data, but the developers do not really have access to them. So this is a quest, you can say. It is about working with each and every clinic, hospital, regional player. So in healthcare, developers, the industry players are competing not for brains but for legs. Who will be the first one to get to the data, to get access to the data? We've been in tight contact with the ministry, and I think this could be really helpful for the industry. This could really elevate the solutions that our developers are proposing. I'm looking at the Deputy Minister. He is nodding and smiling. That's a good sign, right? Okay, secondly, once we have the data, the next question is trust. How do we build trust? I support my colleagues in saying that we do not need just pure data scientists. We have seen a lot of solutions that are seemingly useful and effective, but no one really knows how we can apply this, how we can put this to practice. So the industry-specific competences and skills are crucial. And another thing, certification and quality assessment. In healthcare, it's not that bad. We have initiatives, we have the regulatory framework, and the Moscow administration has been very helpful. We already have the benchmarks for specific areas, but what we are lacking is tools to remove some of the barriers for registration of different products, because for now it takes a long time, between 6 and 12 months, and I think this is a barrier that we really need to get rid of. Getting rid of the barrier, right? Yes. And thirdly, financing. This is a big topic. Let me explain. Implementation of a project like this, even in a private clinic, even in our clinic that has been very active in AI deployment, that requires infrastructure, service capacity, integration, etc. I cannot really imagine a small clinic somewhere in the region that can afford to do this. They can't. We see that a lot of software developers come to us with their own servers. Just try this out. Just check this out. Lots of pilots being launched, and very few cases of actual deployment. Why? So we've done the testing, we've seen the effect, and then the next question is, how do you finance that? With what? And this is the discussion that we've been maintaining for a long time about the financing thing. Should it be grant money? It doesn't really matter. What matters is that we have the source that allows us to deploy these projects. We're really looking forward to getting that source of financing. Thank you, Alexander. When we had the industry-specific session about healthcare, we had 3 deputy platform. The biggest problem, I agree, is access to data, personal data, and I think we do have the solutions already, and the availability of a platform will be able to help you standardize some of the solutions, and also the public tech market will reserve a niche for third-party solutions. We could also leverage budget money and allocate them for standard solutions that could be easily rolled out and scaled up. Thank you. The most pressing issues, I think, we discussed at the previous session, right? Well, yes, this is just a good summary. I agree. Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to the topic of transport. Ildar Sheveliev, representing the transport industry, KAMAZ, Director for Digital Transformation and the CEO of Digital Platforms of KAMAZ. Good morning. So, driverless cars, when will we see them on this highway between Moscow and St. Petersburg? Well, the topic of autonomous cars is such a hot topic these days. A lot has been said about this. This is about economics, I think, primarily, because technically speaking, we are very well aware of driverless cars, and we are accustomed to it. And we see in Moscow a lot of Yandex self-driving cars, and no one is surprised. I see the CEO of Google Track, my colleague from the industry, opposite me. So I know that the driverless cars are nothing new, but the problem is that is the problem of economics. The driver is third after the cost of the fuel and the driverless car itself. So economically, the company should be ready for implementing autonomous car technology. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I understand, the driver in our country, in addition to the low cost, drivers have to work overtime. So when we compare them to robots, we see that it is impossible to exploit robots the same way we exploit human drivers. So the path towards self-driving cars on our roads is a regulatory framework. As soon as we reduce the cost, all transport companies, the entire industry, robotics complexes, same thing there. When the value of human labor increases, that will allow us to make progress. We're doing a lot for this. The technology is costly. The amount of equipment that needs to be installed in the car is similar to the cost of the car itself. So, together with Sberbank and other people in the industry, what we need to do is to make sure that a car remains relatively cheap, and we could transfer the cost to the infrastructure. It's easier for the driverless car to adapt to the environment when the infrastructure is good, and it's more effective than just testing it in a digital environment. And as for talent, the staffing, I would like to say some words about that. Domestic industry is the most flexible in the world. The most flexible, you say? Yes, and the most efficient. Wait, give us a second to take this down. Thanks to this efficiency and flexibility, we were able to win the Second World War, and I'm sure many of you have read literature about it, how our manufacturing industry was supplying machinery and equipment to the front. And if we had been adhering to standards that were similar, the standards similar to those that our Western partners had at that time, we wouldn't have won the war. So maximum adaptability, maximum flexibility. When I travel across the country, speaking with my colleagues in the industry, when I start talking about AI, they are telling me that there is not enough flexibility for AI. The solution is professionalism, professional skills. As has been said, we do not need just data scientists. We need people who understand what AI is and how AI can be leveraged for specific tasks and how to increase the effect in the future. We've been talking a lot about data scientists and digital skills. If we have someone from education, you will maybe confirm that. In robotics, there are very, very few people who actually want to go and study robotics. What the industry needs is robotic engineers. while we are busy these days cultivating talent in less complex specializations. People who have taken up some training courses in Sber and Yandex. So where do they end up? I am talking about structural transformation of our approach to skill development in data science and maybe other specializations, because we think we overestimate the importance of data scientists or developers of front-end, back-end solutions. The commodity is more than enough.
That is interesting. Provide us with this data. Or maybe there are a lot of data scientists in Tatarstan. Ministry of Education, you should write this down. Do you know that KAMAZ is not part of the Industrial Center of Competence? We will resume. Because, in transport there are 4 centers: aviation, railroad, sea, and river. And it will be 5th. Where's automotive? It's not enough. So out of the investment, they have made a lot of commitment, but not from automotive. Some kind of internal competition they're afraid to share, or what? Why are you afraid? Those in agriculture are not afraid. Traditionally, automotive industry was competitive, so we're friends, but we compete. So everyone wants to be hired. So in aviation, there's no competition. No. There's just now OAK. Everyone is united, United Aircraft Corporation. Now there's KAMAZ, but so in which time they stop being commercially sensitive, or what needs to be done so that your industry is also united? But we are united, but we can come together to you. You cannot come, but you just do that. We need uniform industry-wide solutions. So this week we discussed AI in painting. Everyone knows that KAMAZ is the leader in digitalization, in advancement. We want you to roll out this experience throughout the country. But there's also a just question, it's not a joke, about finding a balance between commercial interest and the need for the country to develop in the competitive world and spread out this knowledge. Dmitry, I will repeat that I feel that we're united, so we'll try to be even more. Exchange data, and you'll show that you are united. And thank you for becoming part of the Center of Competence as part of this business breakfast. So you have come back to it. It's also good. Very good. Dear friends, we only have about 6 minutes left, and we need to talk about talent. Everyone mentioned it, and everyone thinks that students are like appearing on their own somehow, but to bring students up, we need teachers, and Alexander Krainov has brought this question up, that it's all good, but we don't have enough teachers. It's an important topic, right? Alexander Krainov from Yandex. Yes, it's an important one, because we're saying that we need many specialists, but we're not just any specialist. In our sphere, one person can do what 200 or 400 people cannot do. So the importance of every individual is important. And we need teachers for that, teachers who are also educating themselves every year, because in our area there are fundamental things like mathematics, programming, basic algorithms that are stable. And there are also an important annual thing. So if you haven't tracked this for a year, you are not professional. Programs must change as well. It's not good here either. So what we are doing in the Alliance, under a very big administrative work done by Gazprom Neft, gathering this all, we now have more than 2,000 teachers that are certified. There are 11 certified programs on AI. What I mean by certified is not just us coming and saying that it's okay. There are a lot of programs that are not certified from the first attempt, and then they come back. So it's a serious process. It's still not enough. When we talk about a deficit, a shortage of high-quality talent, we mean that. So for that, we need to improve the level of teachers. The cool guy and who's not. So for this reason, we in the Alliance decided to create a university rating basing on the quality of people that they prepare, but not just that, because you can estimate it only after 4 years. So they come, then they are a trainee, and then only they show what they can do. But we must estimate that right now, so that this university is so good that you should go there. Not just a direct indicator, but some kind of other indicators that would allow us to understand how good a specialist this university can produce. Thanks, Alexander. Dear friends, our breakfast is coming to its end. And Dmitry, I think the floor should be yours. Maybe based on the protocol that your staff has made right now. The system of intellectual support is working. Anyway, we've written this all down. It's a very useful thing. Today, we have people who have heard this all. Sorry if I provoked you, but it was done only for us to come to specific solutions that will be useful for us all. We must create a productive basis, lift barriers. We have 38 standards, and the statistics of them is big in transport, for example. But in transport, the implementation is also high. 20 standards. In healthcare, 5. In industry, 2. Just for you to understand. So work in your centers and ask us to help so that we can all speed this up. So don't be afraid to tell us that, because we may not always see the lack of the completeness of the data. And we'll give all the necessary orders to ROS standard, industry-wide standards. I think it's important. I agree with you all. For example, standards on smart homes, and similar things. So I'd like to ask business to send your suggestions. You can reach us through our colleagues in the Alliance, and I'm very happy that you're working in not for the first year, and you're doing this efficiently. It's very important for these best practices that have been proven by specific financial performance should be commonplace and available for everyone, so that more and more people learn about that. Conferences like this one are done for that, and would like to thank our colleagues for that. Colleagues that allow to increase trust, and that include ethical questions too. And actually today will try to increase the circle of companies that join this process. So we just must start, and then it will go along for the better of AI in this country. Thank you, Dmitry. After optimistic words from the Vice Premier, we will not roll the voting on the optimism, because we understand that optimism is very high. Second day.